Welcome to Radioactiva. How are you?
Muy bien. I'm really good right now. Thank you guys for having me, Julio.
I'm glad it's finally happening, man. You guys had I remember there was a show booked for March 2020, if I recall, and it got canceled because of COVID and all that. So we're really excited that this is finally happening.
Yes, we are really excited too. I think that the South America and Colombia, this is these are the countries that we've been most excited to visit, and especially for the fact that right before the pandemic kind of struck, we had to cancel these shows, and so Adrian's got some Latin background, and I've got some Latin background in that I kind of grew up in and around like Latin culture and community in California. I know it's really different from Colombia, but we were just expecting to be there sooner. So we're excited to see you guys again.
And now that you mentioned that, I'm really intrigued because um, not soul is not the most popular genre in Latin America, at least not Colombia or Argentina or Mexico that I know. But still, somehow the Black Pumas have managed to break that barrier. Even though you're not specifically a soul band, you have mix of lots of different things. But I'm very impressed, and your voice is very soulful. So that's a great element. Have you ever wondered why had this happened? Somehow the public in Latin America connecting so much with the Black Pumas.
Yeah, I think that Latin culture in general is very like just embraces really good music and art and just has a really rich culture generally that I think that what connects Black Pumas with, some of the countries that we're visiting in the South Americas and Colombia, is the fact that when we make music, we don't necessarily put any labels on it necessarily. We take things that have inspired us and have influenced us in our upbringing. Like I said, I was raised in California, and so I was around a lot of different kinds of people who listen to different kinds of music, Latin being one of them. And Adrian's from a border town here in Texas called Laredo, which is like borders Mexico, and so I I don't I feel like there's some Latin influences in the music, maybe, and that's what people are connecting to, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting because of course we've heard some different acts that has sort of their style, like Michael Kiwanuka, you know,
Ah,
uh,
see,
but
see.
still, I'm telling you, you don't know how it's gonna be in the Stereo Picnic. There are lots of bands that are really looking forward to see you guys at the festival.
Wow, we are excited. I'll tell you one thing. We just came back. Like our last show overseas was in Spain, and Spain was. I think Spain is the reflection I think that we're going to get in a Colombia and in a South America because the people are just so ready. They're ready for good music. They're ready for passion and they're ready for uh, you know earnest songwriters and musicians. So we had a really good time. I can only imagine what it's going to be like once we get down there with you guys.
I have to ask you, since you mentioned influencers, tell me a bit about old and new influences while creating the Black Pumas.
Yes, most definitely. I think that so it goes two ways. So two ways. Adrian and myself make up the genesis of the Black Pumas, where I was doing a lot of busking on in California, playing a lot of folk music, and coming from singing in choirs and coming from growing up under songwriters and dancers and musicians, artists generally that. You probably get so that's my side, and then Adrian, he's done so much in Latin music and in like hip hop, and everyone knows that he's played in a band that supported Prince for an extended period of time. So you know, we listen to a lot of things from jazz to hip hop to like cumbia. Like I love cumbia. Like I just discovered cumbia del Cuervo. Is it Colombia? Man, let me see. Espérame. It's called. I man, I'll find it. I'll find it. But anyway, I've been listening to a lot of.
I lost your camera.
Yes, yeah. I was just looking in my. Okay, it's called Cumbia del Cuervo by Super Grupo Colombia.
Okay.
So so I did all that to say that we like everything from Latin music to soul music to hip hop to classical music, and like choirs. And so it's like I don't really know how to express what the music is like outside of what we do comes from like a very sincere place. And so I think that is what people are connecting to, our sincerity.
With such a big range of influences, how did you guys manage, you and Adrian, to decide how to put together the band, choosing the elements that are now with you guys when it comes to touring?
Oh, say it one more time. I'm sorry.
With such a big range of influences, I would like to know, how did you and Adrian decided to put the band together, the show that you guys have now on the road?
I think that we were both just looking for, like, when we first started playing the music, I don't think that either of us we weren't really making the music to create another band. Adrian's been in a few bands, and he's probably like 10 or 11 years older than me, and with a wife and kids, and I was at the time still just trying to get my feet wet here in Austin, and trying to get rooted here, that I was just taking any and every opportunity to interject myself into the culture and introduce myself to different people. So Adrian found me, we started making music in the studio, and it was really amazing. It felt really good. And so we decided, okay, like, we would be remiss not to put this together with the band. And so we just called those of our friends who were, willing and able to do a 2-month residency on a weekly basis at a bar called Sea Boys in town, with our friend Steve Wertheimer. And the bands that we hired, they were just amazing, and we pretty much have had the same band the entire time that we've been a band. So
cool. You mentioned you started busking in California. How did you end up in Austin?
So yeah, that's funny story. I busked for about 6 months, and I think that it started to get really easy. Life started to get really easy busking on the Santa Monica Pier. Some days I'd walk away with $300, and we'd go and play volleyball and drink Dos Equis, cerveza, with the volleyball players and the surfers and all this. And so it was beautiful, and it was beautiful. But I think that the people who I was busking with, we realized that we couldn't stay there. We didn't want to be complacent about how we were making music. And so we went on a busking tour up the West Coast of the United States on the generosity of the people. And we ended up back down in Austin, Texas, where I eventually decided to stay, because I loved it. I loved how it felt in Austin. And so, yeah, I stayed. I loved how it felt comparatively to, all of the other places that I had stayed to play. There's just something in the human interaction here that is a little bit different than it is in California for a musician, I think.
Here in Radioactiva, you guys had 2 #1 singles, Black Moon Rising and Colors. I wanted to ask you, of course, about Colors. It was the first song we played from the Black Pumas here in Colombia. Could you tell me a bit about that song? I don't know if it was written with a political mindset or something, but I would like to know a bit more about that song because I think it's great, and I like the way it sort of give a message about unity. So could you tell me about Colors?
Stacey, yeah, I wrote that song when I was leading a church at the time with music. Some I didn't even go to this church at the time, but somehow word got around that I played music, and the pastor, there was a preacher at this church who hired me to lead the church in some of the hymnals. So I would learn some hymnals every week for the service, and I would play it. Uh, but there came a time very soon after where I wanted to write something that felt just as honest um, as a hymnal, but from my perspective and from my own truth. And so Colors came about. It came to be while I was actually learning how to play guitar. I wrote Colors, and ultimately, Colors is just a reflection of myself trying to obtain some groundedness within my own higher self. And so in that, you know, there's no exclusivity, right? In that it's all inclusive, and in that it's all love, and yeah, Colors just came out to be. And although I wasn't thinking on a political level with the song, it still is very it's very nice to see how people have used it to as like kind of a flagship for some of the political and just what's going on in the social, us, the social structure here, on this planet and in this country especially.
I'm impressed how influential is singing in church and American music. Al Green, Ray Charles, even Whitney Houston. They always have a story about singing in church. Why?
That's right. I think a lot of the music stems from the church, and the music that you hear in the church, and especially churches that those specific artists that you brought up grew up in. It like a lot of soul, a lot of rock and roll, R&B, a lot of it stems from the Negro spirituals that were being sung, on the fields where, during slavery in the United States. And so I think that what people like, it's so easy to okay. That's a good question. I think that it's easy for me to believe that those people came from the church because what was being played or what is being created in those types of churches, to me, feels like, the music is very much close to the source of just soulfulness, and so it is really interesting to see how the rest of this country and the rest of the world over time has taken the music and has taken their own music, and it's always constantly evolving and integrating and, just changing. It's just culture just working together, I guess. And in church, I learned, in conclusion, in church, I learned to be sincere. Whether I sang good or whatever, it's not about how you sing. It's not about your appearance. It's about your sincerity. It's about what comes from your heart and how well your heart can touch someone else's.
Wow. Wow. It was great hearing you say all that. Just a few more questions before we go. Of course, the debut record, it's a huge album. It reached Colombia, So I wanted to ask you, guys thinking about the upcoming record, a second album, is there anything you could tell me about that?
Yeah, we're working on a second album. It's really exciting. I'm really, I'm a little bit nervous about it. You know, I think that I get a little bit nervous because you want people to really enjoy what you create, in you know, in that vulnerable space that is just making music and being honest, like how we spoke about. So it's been really interesting, and mostly for the fact that the band is really getting to know each other, and you know, Adrian and I have really gotten to know each other. We've practically lived with each other, you know, on the road. We're you know, it's like my hermano already right now. So I feel like this next album is going to feel somewhat of a like a bit more of a cohesiveness in like our relationships with each other. Yeah, I'm excited about it. One new instrument that we've taken to writing music with is the keyboard. Like during the pandemic, I bought a Juno 6 boutique keyboard, and I came up with a few ideas on there, and I'm learning how to manipulate the waves. And so the sound is going to be a little bit different. But yeah, we're excited about it.
Cool.
So I think we'll have it out within like, you know, within a year, if not this upcoming year.
Okay, well, we'll be looking...
hopefully this year.
Okay, great. We'll be looking forward to hear it, of course. Once again, thank you very much for being with us. It's been a pleasure. This is actually the second time we get to talk. The first time was, I think, late 2019, maybe, when we started playing Colors. And it was great talking to you. And this is the first time I get to see you since finally we're going to have you guys playing in Colombia. You have 2 shows here, and we'll probably have the whole crew of Radioactiva seeing you guys there. So once again, thank you very much. Have a very nice day.
Thank you very much, Julio. Mucho gusto. Que tenga buen día.